Am I too short? I can't reach it. Oh, God!
Hi, welcome to Venture Bros, Venture Brothers Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Bryan Dressel. With me, as always, is Nick, Pear, Friedemann.
Just like my body type.
Hey.
And that one caught me off guard.
Good.
And Graham, Clementine, Mason.
Hey, Clementines. Happy
Yeah.
Clementines to everyone.
I think I actually got both fruits this time, so I feel pretty good.
Yeah, I was really expecting Graham, Carrot, Mason. Just stick with your
Graham,
fruits.
Vegetable, Mason. Ah!
Amazing.
This week, talking The Invisible Hand of Fate.
Yes.
Music cue. Do I ruin it if I call it out when it actually happens?
No.
Not unless
Perfect.
it's literally just you saying music cue and then there is no music cue.
Well, if there was a music cue there, then Nick was able to make it work. And if there wasn't, then you just heard me saying music cue, and the joke is not quite as funny.
But
we'll...
I think still effective, though.
Oh, yeah, I think it works.
Yeah.
Agreed.
This week is what I like to call Venture Brothers Does Fan Service. And I don't mean that in a bad way. But it is clearly, I would say, their first real heavy-hitting fan service episode.
Yeah.
And I mean that in the best way possible. It's giving us a lot of stuff that at the time we were like, what the fuck is this? And this was a lot of like, this is this.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. I mean, it's one of those episodes I feel like it's underappreciated, but super necessary.
Absolutely. Yep.
Because, like, a lot of these questions would just go unanswered, and it drives me nuts when shows go on for, like, 6 seasons and just go, we'll figure it out later. And this was like, look, let's just tie up some of these loose ends now. And an episode that I actually think is pretty good at explaining a lot of stuff, and also pretty interesting as far as, like, how all these characters intertwine. They've already established that they intertwine, and now we're actually getting to see more of that.
Yeah, I would make the argument this is probably the least funny, great episode they have.
Agreed.
But we'll get into that really quickly. Let's do a quick summary. I believe it's my turn. I think it is. Either way, I'll go.
Sure.
So this week, Billy Quizboy in his trailer with Pete White gets a real bump on the noggin, and he remembers everything. Very Alice from Resident Evil. He remembers how he lost his hand, which was it got bitten off by a dog. He remembers how he lost his eye. Same dog. He remembers getting his robot hand from OSI, which that was a big mystery. Where did he get his robot hand? He remembers what happens to Phantom Limb's arms, which was he didn't know what he was doing because he cheated on everything, and Phantom Limb's machine just nuked his arms invisible. What else happened in this one? We found out how Myra got fired. We found out how Brok ended up being with the boys, and we found out that Sergeant Hatred was an insider at OSI. Little things here and there, and it's I think that's pretty much everything, right? It kind of jumps around. Like there's a through line of we follow Billy, but it is just kind of like we're gonna watch Billy's story and how it checks off all of these things that we've been kind of asking. Not everything, but a good swatch of them.
Don't forget about Sphinx.
And Sphinx shows up, and we get our first glimpse of Shore Leave,
Yes.
one of my all-time favorite characters.
Yep.
In any media ever. I fucking love Shore Leave.
He's great.
He's incredible. And his entrance is
And
amazing.
I don't know how many times I've watched this episode. I would say a lot. I forget every time that Shore Leave is in it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because I always think of the first time we meeting Shore Leave at the end of the season when he's undercover.
Yeah.
But I just there's something about just the way I don't remember who voices him, but the way they voice him, every line makes me laugh. He's so fucking good.
He's really good. He's very witty, and from the get-go, like, I think we've met other characters or been introduced to other characters. You're like, oh yeah, I remember this character. It gets better over time, but Shore Leave is great from the beginning, and he's always consistent.
I think the first time he goes boom, I'm like, holy shit, this guy kills me.
Yeah.
Like, just so good. But I mean, there's virtually nothing else to say about him because he's barely in the episode.
Yeah, he's kind of a sight gag in a weird sort of way that they bring back later, which is perfect.
Yeah.
But the way that he slings Brok from the beginning, I mean, he's just awesome. And Brok just totally takes it, but it's amazing. I think their interactions are wonderful.
Yeah, but I think you just kind of hit on where I'd like to start with this episode, and that is Brok. Like, Brok and holy shit, what's the general's name?
Colonel Gathers. Hunter Gathers.
Colonel Gathers, thank you. The thing in this episode, and that's kind of why I want to start with it, because it's the only thing that's ever bothered me, is by the first time we meet Brok, his confidence is just through the roof. He is his own man, and he is a man's man. And this is right before he starts working for Venture, and he's kind of a left-hand man. Like, he's definitely important, but he's not his own thing. And I don't ever see in this episode that's supposed to give us the arc of how we got from A to B, him turning into that guy. I'm sure it's happened elsewhere, but I feel like that was the one thing. It feels like it was trying to answer that and just didn't quite get there.
I agree. Yeah. Like, there's something weird about it too, because Brok's strength has not necessarily been his intelligence gathering, I would say. It's not a weakness of his, but I think, like, very clearly his strength is the fact that he is an unstoppable force, right? Like, he's just he's a killing machine. And in this episode, he's relegated kind of to this intelligence gathering bit, not doing much that we associate with Brok, and especially not what you're saying, which is kind of like how he goes from this to being this incredibly confident and almost arguably too confident and kind of bored man's man.
Yeah. And it's kind of, I don't want to say it's a problem. It's just kind of a weird way to get there, you know?
Right. Well, I think
it kind of shows him, like you said, like left-hand man. Like, I think more as a right-hand man to Colonel Gathers. Like, he knows that Colonel Gathers has something about, some extra knowledge about the world, and he just trusts him implicitly. And, like, when he says jump, he's already in the air. And so, and he's totally right, and he has been right. And I think when we see it, I guess it's later this season or later, when Colonel Gathers actually does get his perfect, beautiful breasts.
Yeah.
And that's kind of shaken. And so I think right now, or Brok's faith in him is kind of shaken. And I think right now we're building up that relationship that has been there for who knows how many decades. So where it's like, no, when Colonel Gathers says, you're working with me, or I've got an extra mission for you, regardless if they're working together or not, Brok will drop everything that he has, because that's just his relationship with Colonel Gathers.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. I think it's just kind of, I think just the way the episode was going, I wanted more for Brok's transformation, and this one just kind of hints that this is the beginning of his transformation, not his actual transation.
Yeah,
and since everything else in the episode is the transformation, that one just felt out of place.
Yeah, this episode is odd in that way because it's not Brok's episode. He just happens to be kind of, in a weird way, the B story in this. But yeah.
I would definitely say he's the B story, because the rescue stuff, you can't really even, like, call it a C story. Like, it's really just kind of there as lip service of, like, Rusty was there at the time too.
Yeah, it more or less gives you a timeline of, like, oh, okay, that's when this was happening. Got it. And that's when the boys were, so it's like, okay, great.
Yeah, and that's kind of all of it. Because the meat and potatoes of this episode it's all Billy Quizboy.
Mm-hmm. And the Billy bag comes back in this, or not comes back, but is established in this episode.
Yeah.
Don't forget
the Billy bag.
Don't forget the Billy bag.
Yes, it does.
Billy Quizboy in this entire season is one of my favorite characters. He almost every episode he's in, he has an amazing moment.
Yeah.
But this one is just him all over, and it's so sad. Like it's funny the whole way through, but Billy is just fucked over, and not by everyone, but by most everyone he runs into. But it's I would say 95% Pete White's fault.
100%. Yeah.
By everybody he trusts, he gets fucked up.
Yeah. And
his whole world is a lie. I mean,
Yeah.
what you get in the end when he, after the credits thing, when he wakes up and he's like looking around at all three of them, you're like, yeah, you monsters.
Yeah, which is the right response. Like, that is how he should respond to that, because it's just like, you guys are horrible.
Yeah.
You installed a camera in my head. You gave me a hand that you used to spy on people. And Pete, you forced me to cheat in the one thing that I was famous at, that got me ousted from that, lost me my chance of going to college, and then fed me to a dog.
Let's be honest. I mean, he did lose.
Yeah. But because Pete jumped in, forfeiting the fight.
I would say it's the one good thing Pete has done.
Yeah, 100%.
He put Billy in the pit with the dog, but he didn't let him die. So can we even really call it that good of a thing?
No, because he lost all their money.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Arguably all of Billy's money, because what did Pete do?
Yeah. Just
he got paid to be a game show host, but spent all of his money on blow.
Yeah.
Yeah, not a winner.
Nope.
God, this show that we have here has made me just hate Pete White so much.
I know, he's terrible.
Yeah. The Pink Pilgrim is awful.
Oh my god. And here's the thing.
Until
I
he
love
starts
Pete
hacking.
White. Like I love him, but my god, what a horrible human being.
Yep.
When he publicly traded their company so that he could get money to buy a Wii. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we didn't even touch on that last episode. Oh god.
Sweet mother of fuck. Like what? Oh.
But anyways,
I hate Pete.
but anyways, Billy Quizboy, what a wonderful human.
I love Billy Quizboy. I love Billy Quizboy as much as I hate Pete White.
I do kind of feel that. So going back to what you're saying, it's like, where Venture Brothers does fan service. I do feel like that's kind of talking about this episode a little meaner than it should.
I mean, because even Public and Hammer talk about how this one is just chock full of fan service. Like that was the meat and potatoes of the episode.
Yeah.
Even they admit it.
Yeah, I don't know. That phrase leaves a bad taste in my mouth, but it's totally accurate. And I just think this episode is better than that, because I think Billy Quizboy, his story is incredible to tying this whole thing together.
Yeah,
and I think it's amazing because this is kind of what he's always wanted. He's wanted to be an integral part of Rusty Venture's life, right? An integral part of this world, right? Behind the the velvet curtain and all of that. And unbeknownst to him, he is. He's been used by the OSI to spy on the guild and all this stuff. He even helped create Phantom Limb, do all of this stuff, and he has no idea, right? Like when they
he even got his hand from Rusty's old roommate.
Yes,
or at least the design from it. Yeah,
Mike Soriyama. Yeah. And even when he was asked a few episodes ago, he's like, what even happened to your hand? It's like, that's a good question. I have no idea.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite lines of his. And here we go. Good. Here we find out. And even at the end of the episode, he has no idea. And so it's like kind of one of those like bittersweet moments of, and again, to speak to the incredible wit of those who are writing this, is he gets everything that he wants. He gets the life that he wants. I mean, in a terrible, terrible way. He gets the idea that he is involved in this life and this world, but he is completely unaware of it, unfortunately.
Yeah. But I just jumping back a second to the fan service comment. Like, when I say fan service, I mean if anyone's gonna do fan service, it'd be Venture Brothers, and they're gonna do it right. So this is how you do fan service.
Sure, certainly.
And just like there's so much in it that is like just blatantly there for people who've been obsessed with this show. Like, we have half a second of Sheila in like a schoolgirl outfit, like trying to kind of hit on Phantomos, and it's like you blink and you miss it. That you weren't paying attention. It's like, oh, there goes Dr. Girlfriend. Holy shit.
Yeah.
And then when they're in OSI, just all the characters. Like, we had Red Bannon in there. You have Steve Summers in there. Like, it's just kind of...
Yeah, Red Bannon. I love that moment.
And
then even the establishment of Sphinx and the fall of Sphinx and literally cutting the head off Sphinx.
Right.
In that moment.
So, and I just... They do it so well it doesn't feel like fan service. It doesn't feel like this is just here to just kind of spoon feed us info that we don't have. Because I think in lesser hands, it would have felt like that. It would have been almost frustrating. Like, it'd been like those episodes, like the entire season 5 of Lost, of like, well, we don't know what the fuck we're doing, so we're just going to go back in time to answer questions.
Yep.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like an info dump. It feels like
it feels like, oh, this is when we get to learn Billy's backstory, and it just so happens to have a lot of fan service in it.
Exactly. Yep.
The one thing that I want to mention, because it's in the book, and it's always driven me nuts because I didn't know what the fuck it was, and then I finally have an answer. It was just a love letter to Doc, and that's when Billy is first at OSI, and that weird fucking eye thing comes down, and it's like the nozzle is calibrating. The nozzle is still calibrating. The nozzle is calibrated. And it turns out that was just an inside joke between Hammer and Public, where they were going to have people wait in a circular room whenever they came into their studio and just listen to 5 minutes of look into the nozzle.
Do not look away from the nozzle. The nozzle is calibrated.
And I just their friendship, and just when you get to see it, like it just, the fact that they wrote in a pretty long joke for the two of them is just phenomenal. And
they use it a couple times, and I love it every time.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the only joke they have like that, but it's when you get to see those, and it's those things where, like, when I say fan service again, it's like it makes you feel like you're a part of it, you're inside the joke, and it's just, and it's done so well.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question. That's not about the nozzle. I know. I'm so sorry.
What the hell was that? I have no idea.
Yeah, I have no idea. One of the things that's always been kind of rubbed me the wrong way, and I was hoping that, like, maybe now that I'm watching the show with like a more critical eye, that I could be like, oh, okay. I'm assuming the intel that they had was false intel from Sergeant Hatred, right? That Phantom Limb was a guild recruiter.
I don't necessarily think so.
So is he a guild recruiter at this point in time?
No.
Phantom Limb?
Yeah.
I don't think he's necessarily evil at this time, but he's definitely...
Antagonist, please.
Yes.
He's definitely building towards it, because he's definitely getting money from not the Guild of Calamitous Intent, but the investors.
Oh.
So maybe no, yeah, I mean, he's definitely a villain. Or, sorry, antagonist.
Thank you.
I'm not sure if he's a recruiter, because he definitely does recruit Steve.
But Steve
could be swayed to be evil, and everybody in his classroom could be potential for evil villainy.
I don't know. I don't. It wouldn't surprise me if Sergeant Hatred was feeding them bad intel, because that's really the only hint that's the only thing we could have had that would have been, why is he putting on a guild ring at the end of the episode?
Right. That's the only thing, but then it just kind of feels...
I just think I think it's just a double spy. I think he's just also there spying on them. I feel like Colonel Gathers is better at his job than we really give him credit for.
Right.
Because he was doing double spot for the Evil Hearts, whatever.
Oh,
and that went on
right.
for like 2 seasons or something, right?
Right.
He's
yeah.
a very gifted intel guy.
Right.
So-
which is what's always bothered me, which is like, well, why is he fooled so easily on this, like, what is essentially, like a false...
I think Sergeant Hatred just took an opportunity to split everybody apart at the end when he could.
That
'Cause
makes sense.
I'm not even sure if he really knew exactly what was going on or how close he was. But I definitely think, because when we talk about in chronology, we're not there yet, but there's a time in a season later on where we reference when Phantom Limb, after the operation, goes on a date with Dr. Girlfriend. He talks about being a member of the society
Yes.
of GCI, and so he's definitely a villain. Or sorry,
right.
antagonist.
At that point, he's definitely a villain, but he's already got the invisible...
But that was like, a week or something after the event, I think.
Right. Yeah.
Because they were still in school, and she had the
Right.
same or similar haircut at the time, with
Right.
the pink highlights and such. So it was the same year.
Yeah.
And before that, he was getting money. Like, he was getting all this stuff, and he got the reactor core and all this stuff. So I think he may not have been a definite recruiter, but he was definitely an antagonist. He was definitely getting money from the investors. And so, yeah, I think the intel was accurate.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm just, I don't, it's never really bumped me, but now that Nick's mentioned it, it's still,
There's just a weird loose thread that I can't quite get. That's like the thing. But I do think that the investors giving, like, all of this now makes a lot more sense to me.
yeah.
Here's another weird question.
Shoot.
Is this the explosion that is the explosion between Venture and Baron Underbite? It's a different
No.
explosion, right? So there's
Yeah.
two
Yeah, it's gotta be a
separate.
different
There's two separate explosions at this poor school. Oh yeah,
Well,
wait, for
I mean-
sure. No, it's a different thing. That would have happened like
Yeah.
20, 30 years prior.
Yeah.
Got
Yes.
it. Yeah. Okay.
When Rusty and all of them were at school, and Baron von Underbite, because that was the thing that blew Underbite's jaw off,
Right.
was when Monarch was trying to arch Venture, and everybody thought it was Venture just fucking up Underbite's jaw.
Yeah.
And so he was blamed for it and kicked out of school.
This-
And Monarch wasn't even there.
Right. This poor school has gotten blown up twice, at least twice.
At least twice. I mean, there's a high percentage of antagonists and protagonists at this school, so
True.
maybe they should look at who they're recruiting.
They must have a
That would go to
great
this school.
insurance policy.
I was gonna say their insurance policy's got to be through the roof. though.
Oh, for sure.
Some of it probably comes from the investors. And, the Ventures.
True.
Yeah,
Jonas Venture gave a hefty sum to the school.
that's true. I mean, yeah, I wouldn't want to go to that school.
No, God, no.
I don't know.
I feel like-
there's a lot of great minds there.
Sure, but you might lose your jaw.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then you get it replaced. Mike Suriyama taught there.
I can't disagree with anything you're saying, but I still wouldn't go to school.
Yeah.
Just be careful with who you choose your professor to be. That's all I'm saying.
Fair enough.
What do you mean? Phantomos seems like a great professor.
He is
I mean,
a great
He seems a little
professor.
angry, but otherwise pretty good.
He is a great professor, but just don't do the extra credit.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
What haven't we hit on this episode? I feel like we've
We haven't talked about
hit a lot.
why we're doing this episode versus
that was where I was going to end it,
Okay.
because it is there's a I mean, but if that's where we are, then we can talk about it, because for those of you who are going, why the fuck are you talking about this episode? This isn't the next episode. Well, is it?
Good question.
it.
Nick and I disagree on this. I say no.
I say yes.
Yeah, I also, it's, to me, Bryan has an excellent point, which is, I'll let Bryan say it. I'm not going to steal his thunder.
You could steal it. It's fine.
No, it's okay.
Okay, fine. So my problem is, and keep in mind, Hammer and Public are on my side. I just need to get that out there before I continue talking. The thing is that in the next episode, it's a Sergeant Hatred centric episode. So if in their order, if you go to the book, if you go to the DVDs, everywhere but Hulu and the original air date order, I forget the name of the episode. The hatred, or home is where the hate is, or whatever it is. That one comes before this one, and that's where we realize that Sergeant Hatred is now a main character. He is the antagonist to Venture's protagonist, and that is where it's going to be throughout the rest of the series. And he's also, in a way, kind of arching the Monarch as well, but not officially. And he's a major player, and he's smart, and he knows how to double time people. Like, he is a big deal. And if you didn't know that, the random end of the episode where we spend time with Sergeant Hatred, it doesn't have the impact or the reveal that it would have. And I can see both sides of this coin, where it's like, oh, it's a hint at what's to come, or is it an answer? And I liked it more as an answer, and so do the people who created it. So I'm right, but continue.
Well, and
that's interesting.
Go ahead.
I didn't think about that. No, yeah. All right, that swayed me.
No, I'll be the devil's advocate for this situation, just for the sake of it. But I actually do agree with Brian. I do think it makes more sense as a reveal of, like, that's Sergeant Hatred's voice, right? Or you're like, oh, and then it goes into the room and you're like, oh shit. That has more weight to it than a reveal of a character with a voice that you're kind of like, sounds familiar, kind of, can't quite place it.
From last season.
Yeah. Which is a different actor at that point, but it's still pretty much within the ballpark. And then now you get to see him again later, and you're like, oh, okay, so it's an interesting intro to the next episode or whatever, of where we actually get a full reveal of who this character is. But that being said, to me, it's relatively interchangeable. It doesn't ruin the experience of watching the season kind of through if we get this one before the Sergeant Hatred reveal of, like, who he is. But I don't know. I do agree. I think it makes a lot more sense as an answer. But
because my thing is, if you don't know that he's a major player, then there's no weight to that scene at all, and no weight to him putting the ring on. And it's just like, who's this guy again?
Yeah.
And then if you have spent the episode with him, it's like, oh, Sergeant Hatred was an OSI as well? That's interesting.
Yeah. Right.
There's no payoff to it if you don't already know that he's a main character.
True.
I agree with you. I don't think that, like, watching it in this order or even reviewing it in this order changes really anything, like story or plot or, like, thread-wise. But I just think it's more of an entertaining beat the other way around.
Agreed.
Yeah. As an arc for the season itself, it speaks more towards that, as opposed to just Monster of the Week.
Exactly. And I think that just because there's so much in this episode already, just so much story, that the one Sergeant Hatred moment, if you don't already know, it really just gets lost in the shuffle. And it already kind of does, even if you do know. Like, it's the one extra thing I'm not sure if they needed. Yeah. But it works. But if you don't know, then then I don't think it does work. Then it's just kind of an interesting footnote on a rewatch, as opposed to an interesting, like, actual story beat for the season.
Right. Yeah, which is totally what it was. Like, even rewatching it and rewatching it again this time for the episode that we're currently talking about, for the podcast episode that we're trying to talk about, I totally forgot and totally continue to forget that. You're like, oh yeah, he's in this. Yeah. And so if it isn't followed up by that answer, if it's followed up by that answer episode, it definitely stamps it and makes it official of, like, no, this was intentional, this is a big thing, as opposed to the order that we watched it in and the original air date chronology. Then it's like, oh yeah, here's a thing, he's in this, oh look, he puts a ring on, interesting, and then moves on to something else, and now for something completely different, and then
exactly,
you just totally forget about it.
And like we're saying, it's not necessarily bad. I mean, I think either way works. I just think there's one that's just... And when I say better, I don't mean, like, worlds better. I mean, it's just like, a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
I'd prefer to watch it this way. It's not like I'm ruined watching this way.
No. Right. And it also does bring up the other thing that I wanted to just briefly touch on is that it's not the first time that it's happened to the Venture Brothers, where Cartoon Network has decided that they want a different order to things than the creators, which... now happens less, thank goodness, but it's a common thing, and I feel like it's interesting to talk about kind of how the business side of things is not necessarily the lining up with the creative side of things.
Right. Yeah, it's
so weird.
It's interesting, and it's one of those things that kind of makes you nervous about trying to go into any industry like that. It's like, wait, but it doesn't work that way, and it's like, well, sorry, it does.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and they probably didn't want 2 sort of like heavy-ish episodes in a row, I would guess, no, they do want 2 heavy episodes in a row, I guess.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the creators didn't want it, is what I was thinking, but the business side was like, okay.
I mean, and yeah, I think that's pretty much everything on that, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, let's move into our favorite gut-busting, laughing out loud, hysterical moments of the episode. I've already talked about mine, so I can go first, and it's just Shore Leave.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough for it not to be Shore Leave every time Shore Leave's in an episode. Luckily, he's only in a very few of them this season, because it's just my go-to, but anytime Shore Leave is anywhere, he's my favorite. And when he calls Brok the Hulk, it's fucking hilarious.
Mine is another moment that has Brok in it, and we talked about this relationship just between Brok and Colonel Gathers, and my favorite moment is Brok and Colonel Gathers playing the cow driving game.
Oh, yes.
Cows on my side, 6-2, winning.
Oh, it's a cemetery. You lose all your cows.
They're just... How mad Colonel Gathers gets. He's like, oh, that's it. And he pulls over. He's like, you're driving this time. And it's like...
Oh, it's the best.
It's so good.
Love them so much.
Oh, it's great.
Nick?
Mine is probably the suffering bastard moment. This is a kind of a hard episode to pick like a really funny moment from, because it's just like, ooh, there's a lot of heavy shit in this episode. But
yeah.
I had to look up what a suffering bastard was, and honestly, it sounds terrible. But it doesn't surprise me at all that he likes it. So it's kind of like, well, all right. It's a real cocktail.
I like that they just came up with a cocktail just to make fun of Rusty.
Yeah.
Where's that suffering bastard? I'm looking right at him.
Oh,
ha ha.
On the floor, by the way. Just lying on the floor.
Talking into his watch.
Yes. Oh, God.
Yeah, I like that bartender. He's a good guy.
Oh, they always have the best bartenders. Like the one from season 1 who's like, what's up, hockey hair?
It makes me think that like Hammer and Public just have the best run-ins with bartenders.
Right, they must.
All right, I think that brings today's episode to a close. I think we should do a quick round of plugs and say goodbye. I'm going to plug our own show, Venture Bros, because we have a special episode coming up. We're going to be doing from season 1, the Christmas episode, and I'm going to try to release it on Christmas.
Oh, hooray.
And so we'll have 2 episodes that week, which will be pretty cool. And because I didn't want to miss that episode entirely, I just didn't see the point in reviewing it in season 1 because, it had nothing to do with season 1.
True.
So yeah, we're going to be doing that one soon. And then, of course, listen to After the Hype and Samwise, 2 the other shows on the ATS network. Nick, anything to plug?
Same old. Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Still doing very well in the sales, I see.
Yeah.
Graham, you plugging anything? More mediocre movies on Netflix?
Don't watch Sabrina.
Movie. Agreed.
But watch Sabrina the show if you want. If you had any interest in the show, the actual show, the original show from when we were growing up, and now want kind of like a darker twist, it's all right. It's interesting. There's some good characters in it. It's not great, but it's good. There's your mediocre watch.
Both of your responses just made me that much more excited to watch it. I'll get there. But that's it for this week. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Oh, yeah, Invisible Hand of Fate. Bye.
Invisible Hand of Fate.